Is it possible that a performance being hailed as the most sacred comeback in BTS's history actually carries another message? Quieter, more personal, and far more unsettling. A signal not spoken in words, but conveyed through gesture, positioning, and the silence of Jungkook at the heart of Korean history. This question did not arise out of nowhere. It slowly ignited in the minds of millions of ARMY around the world, alongside reports that BTS is preparing a large-scale comeback performance at Gwanghwamun Square in March 2026, a location that has never been merely a public space, but a symbol of national identity, history, and the collective memory of South Korea. When the news first surfaced through various Korean and international media reports, the narrative seemed simple and heroic. BTS returning as a complete group after nearly 4 years of hiatus due to mandatory military service. A long-awaited homecoming, a celebration worthy of the most symbolic space in Seoul. Yet beneath that euphoria emerged an unease that was difficult to articulate. A strange feeling slipping between fan comments, online discussions, and the unofficial analyses circulating widely. Why did so much of the conversation center on a single name? Why did Jungkook, the magne long known as the Golden Magne, once again become the axis of emotion, speculation, and collective anxiety? Gwanghwamun Square is no ordinary stage. Standing before Gyeongbokgung Palace, it has borne silent witness to Korea's historical journey, from the royal era to a turbulent modernity. That BTS's agency applied for permission to use areas spanning Gyeongbokgung Palace, Gwanghwamun Square, Wolde, and Sungnimun Gate from the Korea Heritage Service indicates that this plan was conceived with a high degree of symbolic awareness. This is not merely a concert, it is a cultural event. And yet, this is precisely where suspicion begins to grow. Why would a group comeback require a stage carrying such historical weight? And why, among the 7 returning members, does Jungkook feel like the strongest point of gravity? The performance is planned as a free public event, with a limited capacity of around 15,000 to 20,000 attendees selected through advance registration. By BTS's standards of popularity, this number is relatively small. A decision that, on one hand, is praised as an inclusive gesture, but on the other raises further questions. Is this limitation designed to create symbolic exclusivity rather than mass quantity? In BTS's history, the most defining moments have often occurred not in the largest stadiums, but in spaces heavy with meaning where the message matters more than the scale. The date under consideration is not random either. March 20th, coinciding with the release of BTS's 5th studio album titled Arirang, immediately triggered emotional resonance. Arirang is not merely an album title. It is a Korean folk song imbued with themes of farewell, longing, and hope. When an album bearing such weight is released and Jungkook, who in recent years has often been associated with narratives of transition, identity-seeking, and artistic maturity, stands at the center of a historic stage, it becomes difficult for ARMY not to ask, is this really only about BTS as a group? This anxiety does not emerge from a vacuum. In several interviews and appearances before his military service, Jungkook frequently displayed a deeper reflective tendency. He spoke about fear, about nervousness, about the desire not to always be perfect. He released solo work that was not only commercially successful, but also forged a musical identity standing firmly outside the group's shadow. When he returns from the military alongside the other 6 members, the public hopes to see reconciliation, togetherness, and nostalgia. Yet what instead surfaces is a subtle tension between collectivity and individuality. Gwanghwamun Square, long a host to winter festivals and major cultural events filled with colorful lighting and grand decorations, is now being projected as the stage for BTS's comeback. This visualization, already widely circulating in fans' imaginations, places Jungkook symbolically between modern light and the shadows of history. It is here that ARMY's emotions begin to split, between hope for BTS's return as they once were, and fear that this moment will instead mark something different, something they are not fully ready to accept. According to industry sources, the plan is still in the discussion stage, and an official announcement will follow once the schedule and location are confirmed. This uncertainty only intensifies speculation. In global fandom culture, informational voids are almost always filled with theories, and the most dominant, Most dangerous yet most tempting theory is the possibility that this performance carries a solo signal from Jungkook, not in the form of an explicit announcement, but through subtle symbols, placement, and visual narrative to BTS, consisting of RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin V, and Jungkook, has completed their military service and is technically ready to reclaim dominance on the global music stage. But what kind of dominance will they present? As a mature, unified group, or as 7 individuals whose artistic trajectories are now increasingly distinct? For ARMY, this question is not merely about music, but about an emotional bond forged over more than a decade. The greatest fear is not separation, but change that is not honestly announced. For fans in Indonesia and around the world who will most likely be watching via live broadcast, every detail will be analyzed with near-academic intensity. Camera angles, the order of members' appearances, the duration of screen focus, even Jungkook's facial expressions will be read as text laden with meaning. In this context, ARMY's anxiety is not an overreaction, but a rational response shaped by BTS's own history. A group accustomed to delivering profound messages through small symbols. And so the opening question resurfaces, sharper and harder to ignore. Is Jungkook's appearance at Gwanghwamun merely part of a long-awaited BTS comeback? Or is it the first clue to a new chapter that will change everything? This question has no answer yet, but one thing is certain: when Jungkook steps onto the Gwanghwamun stage, the world will not only be watching a concert, but attempting to read the future to understand why ARMY's panic feels so real, so collective, and so deeply emotional. We need to pause for a moment from the noise of rumors and look at one thing that casual readers often overlook. BTS has never chosen locations, timing, or narratives by accident. Throughout the long history of their journey, every stage is a text, every light is a sentence, and every member's position is a metaphor. So when the name Gwanghwamun Square emerged as a candidate for BTS's first comeback location after nearly 4 years of hiatus, to some it may have sounded like a logistical decision, but to ARMY, who have long learned how to read BTS, it felt like an ideological statement. Gwanghwamun is not merely an open space in the center of Seoul. It is the axis of Korean history, a place where power, resistance, culture, and modernity intersect. Facing it stands Gyeongbokgung Palace, a symbol of the Joseon dynasty and Korea's traditional identity. Surrounding it is the modern city, with glass buildings, fast-moving traffic, and the unceasing flow of globalization. When BTS chooses, or at least considers, this location, they appear to place themselves between the past and the future. And at this intersection stands Jungkook as the most paradoxical figure of all. As the youngest member, Jungkook has always been positioned as BTS's future. Yet in recent years, he has also become a reflective mirror of the group's past. From a shy teenager recruited at a very young age, he grew into a global artist with a strong solo identity. His solo album, his performances on international stages, and the way he speaks about anxiety and imperfection all construct the narrative of an individual who is no longer merely a part of. When an individual like this returns to a collective structure, creative tension is almost inevitable. This is where symbolic language begins to speak louder than official statements. If this comeback is truly meant as a celebration of togetherness, why does the public narrative repeatedly get stuck on one question? What is Jungkook's role? Will he stand as an equal, or will he become the axis? These questions are not born from a desire to divide BTS, but from an awareness that their internal dynamics have fundamentally changed. The proposed date, March 20th, further thickens the symbolic layers. Arirang is not just a folk song. It is a song about partings that are not entirely final, about journeys marked by wounds, and about hope for reunion. When BTS chooses this title for their 5th album, and Jungkook, who has most often been associated with themes of longing and self-searching, returns to a national stage, it becomes difficult not to read this as a dialogue between individuality and collectivity. Is Arirang here speaking about BTS and ARMY, or about Jungkook in the phase of life he has passed through? Speculation grows stronger as information about the event format begins to circulate. A free event, limited capacity, advance registration. All of this creates an atmosphere that feels almost ritualistic. This is not a mass concert designed to maximize profit, but a symbolic event meant to be witnessed, recorded, and remembered. In such a context, every detail matters. Who appears first? What songs are performed? Who stands in the center? In Korean performance tradition, the center position is not merely about aesthetics, but about a hierarchy of meaning. For ARMY, this anxiety is intensified by collective memory of how BTS has often used comeback moments to mark major transitions. They are no strangers to surprises, to shifts in direction, to announcements embedded subtly within performances. But this time the stakes feel higher. Jungkook is no longer a young man who is still learning. He is an adult figure with global influence, and every step he takes is read as a strategic decision, not an emotional coincidence. Interestingly, there has not been a single official statement from HYBE or BTS indicating a Jungkook solo project in this context. It is precisely this silence that speaks the loudest. In the modern entertainment world, silence is rarely neutral. It often becomes an intentionally created empty space, inviting the public to fill it with their own hopes and fears. And ARMY, as a fandom highly trained in analysis, does so with extraordinary intensity. On social media, discussions evolve from simple excitement into unease. Some wonder whether this will be a symbolic farewell to Jungkook's maknae image. Others worry that the dominance of individual narratives will shift BTS's collective identity. Yet there are also those who quietly hope that Jungkook will finally be given full space to express himself without limitation. All of these emotions collide at the same point: Gwanghwamun. For international fans, especially in Indonesia, geographical distance only amplifies the emotional intensity. Reliance on live broadcasts makes every second feel crucial. There is no chance to feel it directly, only to read and interpret. In such conditions, symbols become everything. And Jungkook, with his history, his charisma, and his current position, becomes the strongest and most ambiguous symbol of all. Thus, Chapter 2 of this story is no longer about whether BTS will make a comeback. That is almost certain. The real question is how they will return, and what Jungkook's return means within this new configuration. Will he reaffirm his commitment to the collective, or will he show that the era in which he was understood solely as part of a group has ended? At Gwanghwamun, a place where Korean history always speaks through symbols, the answer may not be spoken but performed. And that is where ARMY's panic finds its roots, not in fear of loss but in uncertainty of meaning. Because in the world of BTS, meaning has always mattered more than official announcements. And Jungkook, whether he intends it or not, now stands at the center of that meaning. When that night finally arrives and the stage lights illuminate Gwanghwamun Square, the world may witness what appears to be a concert. But for ARMY, that moment will feel like a collective emotional trial, a point at which hope, fear, and love are tested simultaneously. The question that has been hanging in the air from the very beginning can no longer be postponed. Is Jungkook's appearance on this historic stage merely part of BTS's homecoming, or is it the first marker of something larger, more personal, and perhaps inevitable? In the history of global pop music, there have been few comeback moments that carry a symbolic burden this heavy. BTS is not only returning as a group, but returning to the very center of Korean cultural identity, standing directly before a palace that represents the origins and continuity of the nation's history. In a space like this, every step feels political, every note feels ideological. And Jungkook, with all the narratives attached to him, from maknae to global icon, stands at that same crossroads. If Jungkook performs without special emphasis, if he fully blends into the group formation without any sign of differentiation, then that night will be read as a firm statement of unity. But if the opposite happens, if the camera lingers a little longer, if a particular song is given a different emotional framing, if there is a moment of silence that feels too meaningful, then the speculation long dismissed as excessive could turn into conviction. And it is precisely here that ARMY's greatest unease lies, the uncertainty of how to read those signs. What makes this situation even more complex is the awareness that Jungkook himself has never openly rejected or confirmed public expectations. He leaves the space for interpretation open. In an entertainment world obsessed with transparency and instant clarification, this stance feels almost subversive. Is it strategy, or an honest reflection of an artist still negotiating his position between I and we? For BTS, the night at Gwanghwamun is not only about performance, but about the narrative of the future. The world will be watching, not merely as fans but as witnesses. Will BTS appear as 7 individuals reuniting as one, or as a collective that now allows broader space for each member's personal identity? Jungkook, more than anyone else, becomes the key to that reading. For ARMY in Indonesia and around the world who follow through live broadcasts, this moment will feel both intimate and painful. Intimate because it feels emotionally close. Painful because it reminds us that change is inevitable. Yet perhaps this is BTS's greatest honesty, that loving them means being ready to grow together, even when the direction of that growth is not yet fully clear. In the end, perhaps the opening question will not be answered explicitly. There will be no solo announcement, no dramatic declaration. What remains will be impressions, feelings, and memories of one night at Gwanghwamun when Jungkook stood under the lights, and the world tried to guess what it all meant. And precisely because there is no definitive answer, that moment will continue to live on in discussions, in theories, and in emotions that are difficult to put into words. Is this the long-awaited solo signal? Or merely a mirror of our own unease as spectators afraid of loss? The answer may not matter. What is certain is that from that night onward, BTS and Jungkook will never be seen in quite the same way again. And perhaps that is where the greatest surprise lies, one that ARMY has not yet fully realized. Not in whether Jungkook will stand alone or remain at the center of BTS's formation, but in the fact that the night at Gwanghwamun will force everyone to acknowledge something long avoided. BTS has grown, and growth always brings distance. Not a distance that separates, but a distance that allows room to breathe for each individual identity. Jungkook, with all the attention and anxiety surrounding him, may not be signaling separation at all but redefinition, about how to remain part of something immense without losing oneself.